Alors, j'aimerais commencer par reconnaître que je suis, et la plupart de nous sommes, en Mi'kmaq, le territoire ancestral et non cédé du peuple Mi'kmaq. Bienvenue à vous toutes et tous à notre café virtuel CDÉNÉ Coffee Break. Cette session fait partie de notre série de rencontres virtuelles qui se concentre sur des sujets et discussions pertinents pour le succès économique des entreprises au sein de nos communautés acadiennes et francophones. Aujourd'hui, nous discutons l'avenir des entreprises rurales en tenant compte de leur résilience et leurs opportunités. Il est important de noter que nous avons tous un rôle à jouer pour contribuer à un impact positif sur les résultats et la reprise économique de nos communautés et que le moment est plus que jamais critique pour soutenir nos économies locales par nos propres actions. Alors, supporter nos entreprises locales et contribuer à la force de notre économie. Cela étant dit, je voudrais vous présenter notre directrice générale, Julie Oliver, pour qu'elle nous partage quelques mots et qu'elle nous introduise notre invité de cette session d'aujourd'hui.
Merci beaucoup, André. Et bonjour à toutes et à tous. Il me fait grandement plaisir d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui pour notre pause café virtuelle mise sur pied par notre équipe des services en affaires et en entrepreneuriat. Je vous souligne en commençant que le CDÉNÉ est le seul organisme francophone avec un mandat provincial et dont la mission est le développement et l'avancement économique de la communauté d'affaires et de nos régions acadiennes et francophones, et surtout de nos régions qui se trouvent en milieu rural. C'est ça qui est le focus de notre session aujourd'hui. Je vous souligne aussi que la langue officielle de fonctionnement du CDÉNÉ est bel et bien le français, mais nous sommes parfaitement bilingues aussi. Ce qui fait de nous l'organisme de choix, autant local, l'organisme de choix pour les services aux entreprises et aux chercheurs d'emploi, pour les services aux entreprises, aux chercheurs d'emploi, autant local que ceux issus de l'immigration. Et ça pour combler les besoins en main-d'œuvre de nos employeurs de tous les secteurs économiques et afin qu'ils puissent innover pour maintenir et même accroître leur productivité. Alors, sur ces beaux mots, et cela étant dit, je poursuis avec plaisir de présenter notre invité spécial d'aujourd'hui, le Premier ministre Iain Rankin. Je pense qu'il n'a pas vraiment besoin d'introduction, mais je vais le faire quand même. Monsieur Rankin est né à Inverness, en Nouvelle-Écosse, et a grandi dans la ville de Timberley. Il a représenté à l'Assemblée législative en tant que député de la circonscription de Timberley Prospect en 2013. Il a été réélu en 2017 et a été nommé ministre de l'Environnement. En 2018, il a été nommé ministre des Terres et des Forêts. M. Rankin a été assermenté à titre de Premier ministre de la Nouvelle-Écosse le 23 février 2021, après avoir été élu chef du Parti libéral de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Il propose un programme ambitieux fondé sur 3 grands défis auxquels la Nouvelle-Écosse est confrontée. Préserver notre environnement, mener une reprise économique robuste et promouvoir l'équité et l'inclusion à l'échelle de la province. Alors, M. Rankin, sans plus tarder, je vous passe la parole pour lancer le sujet de la séance d'aujourd'hui, l'avenir des entreprises rurales, la résilience et les opportunités. La parole est à vous, M. Rankin.
Merci beaucoup. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here for a conversation with the Conseil de développement économique de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Merci de m'avoir invité à participer à cette discussion sur notre vision sur la Nouvelle-Écosse. It's great to meet you and discuss the future of rural business. This is a timely event. Just yesterday, I attended a number of events in Western Nova Scotia, and I had the pleasure of visiting Clare. I stopped in at the Université de Sainte-Anne, and I also toured shipbuilding and met with Gilles Thériault. One of your members, Lise Dupré, is actually on the Economic Growth Council that I created, and we just accepted the recommendations today. Of course, you know Lise is the manager of Como's Seafood. Really pleased to have her experience and regional insight as we start to grow back a strong economy. The recommendations from that council focused on making Nova Scotia a startup capital and enhancing the climate for business in Nova Scotia, including reducing unnecessary regulatory burden. And these recommendations also look at positioning Nova Scotia for a strong economic recovery. Everywhere I go, when I start to travel around South Shore, Cape Breton, all points in between, I'm seeing a lot more optimism as Nova Scotia's worked really hard to tackle COVID-19. They've showed remarkable resilience, including getting vaccinated. And in fact, on Monday, we delivered our 1 millionth dose of vaccine. So we are ready for a strong recovery and one that provides all opportunities for Nova Scotians. That's why it's timely to speak about the future of rural business. Les entreprises et les industries rurales sont extrêmement importantes pour la Nouvelle-Écosse. Notre province a de fiers antécédents en matière d'industrie traditionnelle, notamment l'agriculture, la pêche et l'exploitation forestière. Bon nombre de ces industries sont concentrées dans nos collectivités rurales et dans nos régions francophones. Il s'agit d'industries clés pour le développement économique de la Nouvelle-Écosse et des collectivités rurales elles-mêmes. I want to thank your organization for providing leadership on key issues. I appreciate your emphasis on innovation, on the importance of the environment and sustainability, and on youth engagement and providing opportunities for youth. Our government has placed emphasis upon these items, and this includes initiatives designed to support the development of rural areas. Our province is beautiful, especially the parts boasting an Acadian heritage. As part of an effort to support this culture, the province will begin installing the bilingual stop signs in some Acadian communities this summer. And really great to see young people driving that initiative. The culture of Francophone regions is a special part of Nova Scotia and a draw for tourism. On June 15th, we did announce a package of $18.2 million to help restart the tourism industry in Nova Scotia. We've made admission to the 28 provincial museums free of charge for the summer. So we want our traditional industries to have the tools they need to innovate and grow. On Monday, we announced a $5.4 million investment in our forestry industry to keep skilled Nova Scotians working and make it more ecological. We're also working to support our dynamic agriculture producers. This includes $5 million for projects that support a shift to clean technology and increase our year-round production. And while we're building industries of tomorrow, we're making sure we build the workforce of tomorrow as well. This means getting Nova Scotians, especially young ones, to the training they need to be competitive and to contribute to emerging industries. We've made significant investments in universities and community colleges so they can train students in IT, including over $16 million for enhanced IT programs. So I think it's an exciting time to be optimistic for rural communities. I think the pandemic shaped the way we work, travel, and interact. And people are increasingly working from home, and we saw people come or look to come to Nova Scotia during the last year. And why not? Because when you work here, when you live here, you can work from anywhere, especially looking at the incredible settings that our province has to offer and our quality of life, especially in rural communities. So I think we'll see more people, more tourism opportunities, more business, and expansion of traditional and new industries. So we're looking to help with this development, including working hard to expand broadband so people can work from anywhere. And we want to see an increase of immigration, as has been trending, to Nova Scotia. On peut aussi dire que je suis bien optimiste pour l'avenir. Je vais maintenant laisser la place à la discussion. Merci au Conseil de développement économique de la Nouvelle-Écosse pour votre travail et l'appui des collectivités rurales et francophones à l'échelle de notre province. J'ai hâte d'entendre vos points de vue.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre Rankin. Nous allons maintenant passer à une période de discussion, de questions et de réponses basée sur quelques questions déjà reçues. N'hésitez pas quand même pour les participants à taper des questions additionnelles dans la fonction chat et nous espérons les traiter ces questions-là si le temps nous le permet. J'aimerais maintenant passer la parole à Dale DeVoe pour démarrer la session. Dale?
Merci André. Bienvenue Premier ministre Rankin. Welcome Premier Rankin. La première question, Monsieur le Premier ministre, pouvez-vous nous faire part de votre vision de l'économie rurale de la Nouvelle-Écosse alors que nous continuons à nous concentrer sur une reprise économique robuste? Premier, can you share with us your vision for the rural Nova Scotian economy as we continue to focus on a robust economic recovery?
Thanks very much for the question, and following on some of the topic items that I referenced. I think it's important for government to be a partner in how we develop communities, make them more vibrant, like the placemaking opportunities, how we invest in things like broadband. So I mentioned that, investing in our wharfs, like I just announced yesterday in the Digby area, as a partnership with the federal government, the tourism industry, and really grasping the opportunity, which I think is a really interesting period for rural places across the globe, really, and looking at the impacts of pandemic and people living close together and the benefits of people being able to live in areas that they find that they get a better quality of life from. So I've saw anecdotally lots of people that moved here from all over Canada, Ontario especially, and they're drawn to rural communities, but they need access to comparable services. And that's where we need to step up to provide broadband, road infrastructure, modernize infrastructure, keep our buildings up, and invest in the green technology. So we're going to be expanding more renewable energy, and that will actually disproportionately impact in a good way rural communities and jobs, efficiency programs as well. So as we start to grow back that more sustainable economy and one that's more fair, I think rural communities are going to really thrive from that public investment.
Thank you, Premier Rankin. Maintenant, je vais passer la parole à mon collègue Alain Béliveau.
Merci Dale. Monsieur le Premier ministre, les entrepreneurs ruraux ont toujours eu besoin d'innover constamment pour survivre. Pouvez-vous nous dire comment vous envisagez le rôle de l'innovation et sa contribution à la force de notre économie rurale? Rural entrepreneurs have always needed to continuously innovate in order to survive. Can you share with us how you see innovation playing a role as it relates to contributing to the strength of our rural economy?
Yeah, innovation is really key. L'innovation est clé. I think that it's really important that we help traditional sectors advance. And so those industries that are strong, forestry, fishing, agriculture, those industries will need to be more and more competitive because it's increasingly competitive. And so how do we ensure that we have the best, more efficient processes for things like, investing in bagging apples? When I was in the Valley, I noticed that. Ensuring that you have access to the most modern type of equipment. And so that's where innovation tax rebates through government can help mitigate risks when you're investing lots of capital into more advanced processes. Forestry, of course, equipment's going to be needed to look at lighter touch forestry practices in communities. And so I think that innovation's a part of that in those traditional sectors, but I think it's also part of grasping the fourth industrial revolution and recognizing that digital is the fastest growing sector. And so it's not discounting the traditional sectors. I think it's actually helping them, but it's also looking at the knowledge-based economy and how we support universities and our post-secondary and the research that's occurring. And that's why we invested in the IT program, and that's why we invested in at COGS in Lawrencetown and to support geomatics and the work that's happening there. And I think it's really time that we look at significantly investing in training and attracting people here. And they won't come here unless we're cutting edge on our innovation and how we look at remaining competitive for generations.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Je vais maintenant passer la parole à mon collègue Jeannot Chiasson.
Merci Alain. Monsieur le Premier ministre, nous entendons parfois dire que certaines entreprises rurales ont de la difficulté à prendre de l'expansion ou à maintenir leurs activités en raison d'une pénurie de main-d'œuvre. Et nous savons aussi qu'il est très difficile de remplacer ces entreprises rurales lorsqu'elles ne peuvent plus fonctionner. Que pensez-vous de la pénurie de la main-d'œuvre que connaissent les entreprises rurales de la Nouvelle-Écosse? Et quelles mesures peuvent être prises pour régler ce problème? We are at times hearing that some rural businesses are having difficulty expanding or maintaining operations due to labor or workforce shortages. And we know it is very difficult to replace a rural business once it cannot continue to operate or exist. So what are your thoughts on the labor workforce shortage being experienced currently by the rural Nova Scotian businesses? And what measures can be taken to address this issue?
That's one of the key areas that we hear a lot about from industries across lots of sectors, whether it's building, housing, and not having access to skilled trades, or agriculture and needing temporary foreign workers. So that's where we need to look at immigration significantly and retaining people that are coming here. So the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program was successful in bringing more people here. We've created recently newer streams that identify some skilled trades. And then we're going to need to continue to press for allowing for credentials in different provinces to be transferable. And that came out of the Economic Growth Council that I referenced. So we'll be looking at that, similarly to what we did for apprenticeships and taking what other provinces give for training. So we have massive labor shortages, skilled and unskilled, and we're going to need to find ways, and we're continuously trying to expand our immigration programs. We are growing our population at record levels, but we need to really attract people that are skilled in those labor gaps areas, but we need housing for them too, and that's what we're finding in rural communities is it's hard to attract people if you don't have affordable housing. So we also invested in that, and then of course the training piece. So I think it's really a combination of attracting, retaining, having the right training in place, and having the housing stock. But there's no one solution for all those things. So it's going to take a multifaceted approach, and that's why we need to work with different levels of government, like federal government, for example, on immigration. But there is going to need to be a lot of attention paid to those shortages, because it'll hold us back from our potential of our economic growth.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. I'll now invite my colleague Adrien Saunier to ask the following question.
Merci, Jeannot. Monsieur le Premier ministre, ma question pour vous est la suivante. Quels sont les secteurs qui, selon vous, présentent les meilleures opportunités à l'avenir? What sectors do you anticipate having the best opportunities moving forward?
Yeah, that's I hate to alienate some sectors that will think that they're forgotten. I certainly tried to get a lot of representation at the Economic Growth Council table, so I referenced that seafood was at the table, but I do think we have an opportunity to really jump into the fourth industrial revolution that's happening right now around digital, and so the new NSCC campus will be training over 100 new people come September, and that's on top of Dal is going to be doubling their computer science program, and Acadia and St. Mary's and St. Avec. So we're continuously investing in those training opportunities for growth. There's wait lists for certain industries. That's one of them. Healthcare is another one. As we start to provide more support for childcare and our population grows, we're going to need to have more people trained in that sector. So there is already areas of growth. The green economy in general will see growth. We will be building more renewable energy. People will be demanding more net zero buildings. So that will help all of our trades. So I think that trades in general across the board will have huge growth opportunities. And so we're working with community college to see what kind of job growth opportunities can match with their training programs. And ocean tech, anything to do with the ocean, we should be looking very closely at, and not just discounting any region of the province. So if there's a competitive advantage to invest in something, if it's forestry for Cumberland or New Ross or those areas that really depend on it, then that's where we should be like paying attention to. And it's all of those things together. So I loathe to point out one or two, because I think that all of our traditional sectors can compete if we continuously look at ways to innovate. But we should also be looking at attracting. One of the things we're also trying to do here is be a startup capital, not only in the country, but beyond. So we're looking at waiving fees for the first couple of years and a whole bunch of other initiatives. Some of that's happening organically, and we want to try to really leverage where we are with that. So how do we attract more and more companies to here to start their business and keep younger people here and take advantage of what's starting to happen already, where we're having more young people stay here than ever before. We're having more people move here from other parts of the country than ever before. And we still continue to have strong immigration numbers. So all of those sectors, I think, stand out to me, but there's many more. There's the biotech industry and what BioVectra is doing in Windsor. So that whole life sciences piece is another one that I'm hearing about. So the potential is so strong because a lot of the training exists here with 10 universities and community colleges in every corner of the province. So I wouldn't discount the opportunity to help any of those sectors really modernize and grow even further than what they are right now. So that's what the council's looking at, and we do have, like I said, some broad representation from a number of sectors, and they're going to be doing more in-depth consultation. So I'll make sure they reach out to the groups to make sure that your voice is heard as they look for the next more long-term recommendations for the fall.
Merci. Je passe la parole à ma collègue Rachel Leblanc.
Parfait, merci Adrien. Alors, Monsieur le Premier ministre, en tant qu'étudiant dans une communauté rurale, est-ce que je peux espérer d'avoir plus de possibilités d'emploi dans le domaine des affaires lorsque je serai diplômé, au lieu d'avoir besoin de déménager en ville? Je veux voir ma communauté se développer. Pouvez-vous partager vos idées sur la façon dont nous pouvons nous assurer que les étudiants comme moi ont des opportunités de carrière dans nos communautés? As a student in a rural community, can I expect to have more job opportunities in the business field when I graduate instead of needing to move to a city? I want to see my community grow. Can you share some thoughts on how we can make sure that students like me have career opportunities in our communities?
Yeah, so that's a good way to I guess, I don't know if that's the last question, but that kind of brings all of the things that we talked about, all those sectors being available for young people and having choices. I think it's changed a lot from when I'm 38, when I was finishing my undergrad and getting a business degree. There wasn't a lot of business going on, so I left and had good experience and came back, helped start a new business before I got into politics. It's changing now with our population growing. It's providing more markets, and I think that those investments that we're making now in IT sectors and how we become a partner in research and programs that try to keep people here and incentivize companies to hire young people out of school, like the Graduate to Opportunity program, and the co-op programs that are taking place at Nova Scotia Community College, where hundreds of paid work placements take place, allow for that experience to take place right away. And I think that does exist across many different sectors, and I certainly saw it at the Terrios shipyard yesterday. There was many students that were working there. I was in Michelin in the Valley, and of course, as you know, they're in Pictou, Bridgewater, and I think 99% of the people they take there come from within Atlantic Canada, either Dal or Memorial, and they prefer to hire people that are coming out of school here, and it's because people tend to stay here. And so I know Michelin has interesting growth plans and how they're going to compete in an increasingly competitive world for tires and how that relates to tires for electrical cars. So there's a lot of innovation happening in different companies, and some of them are, I think, have been around for a long time, like forestry, where we're investing in a new forestry school and investing in silviculture work to advance ecological forestry, fisheries, and those sectors. But it's also about, again, grasping the opportunity that we have to remain a competitive workplace and draw in new startups. And it's not just startups in digital or clean tech, it's starting any business. So I really want government to be a real strong partner, and sometimes just getting out of the way to help businesses just get off the ground and grow. So we do have some programming to help with that, but at the end of the day, it is about keeping young people here. It's okay if you leave and come back, attracting young people back here, and having our quality of life that is the best in the country showcased for all. And I think we're going to have a record tourism season after we get through the next month. You're going to see a lot more people coming here, and I think you're going to see a lot more people wanting to stay. So that's where I think rural communities can even outcompete the cities, because it's awfully nice to be able to work next to the ocean or nature than it is to be in a city that has more people around you all the time. And that's one of the positive silver linings from the pandemic. So I know there's people working in Guysborough for a company in downtown Toronto, and all they needed to stay was access to high-speed internet. So those are the things that we need to do as a government. That's our responsibility, to ensure that there's access to comparable services, whether you're in Matagan or Meat Cove or any place that's around in Nova Scotia. So that's where I think government plays a role in keeping young people here. And at the end of the day, it's about choice, and young people should have more choices here. And if we can provide more choices in which direction they want to go in, then you'll see that happen more and more.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre Rankin. J'ai une couple de questions qui ont rentré par le chat. J'aimerais en poser une pour débuter. Puis c'est à propos de l'économie circulaire, the circular economy. Ça représente plusieurs opportunités. Et nous demandons si vous avez des pensées sur comment est-ce qu'on peut encourager le développement durable comme une façon de faire en business, et particulièrement dans la communauté rurale. So the circular economy presents many opportunities. Do you have any thoughts on how we can encourage sustainable development as a way of doing business here in Nova Scotia, and particularly in rural Nova Scotia?
Definitely, this is a growth sector. I guess one of the few I didn't mention this. There's a lot of opportunity on how we value waste as a resource. For example, the company, the Dr. Burke, and what he does with food waste from grocery stores and makes a protein, which I use, a vegan protein that you can use. So it's turning something that ordinarily has no value or hasn't in the past into something that we can use. So there's that. There's the bioeconomy that relates to that. So in the forestry world and the agriculture world, and how we harness waste products for energy or for other type of uses like biochar that forestry is looking at right now. So you have that for your gardening. There is a lot of innovation happening with our innovation hub. Rod Babcock is on my Economic Growth Council too, and they're also tasked with finding ways that we have the most optimal investment readiness in our province to attract and help move some of the applications that need to get through for some of those companies, and the right type of investment required, so they can access capital if they need to build things. So Sustain comes to mind in Chester, turning waste into energy there, and biodiesel. So they're in the middle of the regulatory process and having it operating so that we can start to look at the reduction of the need for landfills. So those are some examples. And I know in the fishing industry, for sure, there's a lot more to do. I think when I was in Yarmouth at the Ignite hub, they were talking about certain competitions on how they look at how to best use the fish, because we only use like 20% of the fish. I think in other countries in Europe, they use close to 80 or 90%. So there's a lot of work we need to do and a lot of potential to tap into the circular economy. And I think Nova Scotia can be a leader there, as we were in the 90s with our recycling programs.
Thank you. And a couple of questions from, let me just take a look at the chat. Do you think that privatization of telecom and power infrastructure with competition and efficiency given as reasons for it was the right move? What are your thoughts on that in respect to the current cost and performance of that infrastructure?
So this is Nova Scotia Power, is that what you said?
It's either telecom or power infrastructure.
Yeah, we do have, I guess you call it a regulated monopoly with Nova Scotia Power, but we are finding ways to bring more competition online. So there's the Green Choice program that will be launched soon to help with allowing municipalities and big employers like Michelin and others to have their own renewable energy projects. We're also looking to tender out renewables that will be separate from the Nova Scotia Power's own that, so they won't own those assets, which I think are good. More community-based ownership, more First Nations-based ownership, and we'll look at that in terms of how we potentially could assist with telephone. And right now we're engaged in the whole rollout of high speed, which has been predominantly Bell, because those are the ones they actually bid on it. But we need to continue to provide ways to increase infrastructure in the province, and the more competition that we can have involved in that, the better. You'll see a significant renewable contract go out in the near future, and I expect a lot of competition, especially for wind energy, which has come down to what we expect, probably 4 cents a kilowatt hour. And that's a lot of jobs for rural communities too.
Merci pour tes pensées sur le sujet. Et peut-être une dernière question respectant l'horaire que tu nous avais accordé. Alors, une dernière question pour toi, c'est en plus des industries mentionnées plus tôt sur la foresterie, l'industrie de la pêche et agriculture, plusieurs des entreprises en milieu rural sont en fait des travailleurs autonomes ou offrent des services ou des produits très importants dans nos communautés, tels que des artistes, des coiffeurs ou des propriétaires de Airbnb, par exemple. Quel rôle voyez-vous pour ce genre d'entreprise dans votre vision pour l'économie et la relance post-pandémie? So in addition to the sectors mentioned before, forestry, fisheries, agriculture, many of our businesses in rural areas are self-employed people that provide very important services for our communities, such as artists, hairdressers, Airbnb owners, etc. What kind of role do you see for that kind of business, and your vision for the economy post-pandemic rebuilding in the rebuilding process?
Yeah, those industries were hit pretty hard by the pandemic. Any industry that had to serve people or be close to people. So we really tried hard to keep them afloat with some of the impact grants that went out, including the third wave, making sure that they could just stay above water. And they really do need a population base, and so that's why we need to continue to focus on keeping people here, attracting people, and then allowing just an ease of process. And if they can have any red tape reduction, that's why we've set a new target so that they have easier time dealing with government for approvals, permits. Maybe we do that virtually, those types of things to help. We have reduced small business tax in the past, changing the threshold of those who are eligible. It's difficult to reduce taxes at this time because we are so much in deficit because of the impact of the pandemic, and we certainly don't want to give up any revenue right now. Actually, it was the cost of the pandemic has been over $1 billion now, in a cumulative way over the last year and a half. So we just have to be conscious of that. But of course, it would be nice to have more competitive taxes and provide that relief. But we're going to extend out things like fees and just try to make it a lot easier for businesses, small businesses that you referenced to stay afloat. And in terms of Airbnbs and accommodations, we're part of the tourism packages to help those that have rooms to be able to use money for promotional purposes, marketing. And we think that there will be real strong uptake again on tourism. And so we're really pushing some of our initiatives. And I'm really looking forward to the rural communities. All 18 counties in the last year, actually, minus the pandemic, so the year before that, I should say, grew in population. It wasn't that long ago where it was only a couple. So we're on the right track, but obviously the pandemic had an impact, and we'll be watching that closely and where we need to invest.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre Rankin. Et ça, c'est le temps que tu nous avais accordé. Merci beaucoup. Et merci beaucoup de nous avoir fait part de vos réflexions et perspectives basées sur votre expérience et votre vision pour notre province. Nous pouvons tous profiter de cette discussion et aller de l'avant en réalisant un effort vraiment important pour stimuler et soutenir notre économie. Je vous partage aussi, Monsieur le Premier ministre, que nous sommes ici pour appuyer les entreprises de nos communautés. Alors, vous pouvez compter sur nous pour ces besoins de la part de la province. Gênez-vous pas à cogner sur notre porte. Et finalement, de nouveau, je pense que nous savons tous qu'il existe un lien direct entre le support de nos entreprises locales et la stabilité et croissance nécessaire de notre économie. Alors, n'oublions pas de supporter nos entreprises locales. Alors, merci beaucoup et je vous souhaite tous une bonne soirée.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Premier ministre.